Quick one, nothing here is financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research or speak to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Enjoy the episode and like and subscribe.
GM, welcome back to the channel. In this one, we're breaking down Radix, which is a layer 1 blockchain custom built for DeFi. So let's take you through the architecture that runs this, some of the secret sauce that they've custom built. We're going to go into the ecosystem as well, show you how to onboard yourself utilizing their wallet, which has mobile access. Plus, we'll take a look at a few protocols within here, maybe some meme coins as well. And of course, we'll discuss tokenomics and the roadmap ahead. So if that sounds good to you, let's jump on in. So let's start off here with a bit of a brief history around Radix. You can see on screen here the people who are most forward-facing within this blockchain architecture are, of course, Dan Hughes, who was the founder of Radix, and Piers Ridyard, the CEO. Both of these guys have been on the Blockmates podcast, so do check out some of the conversations that have been had with not only Grant, but Jerry more recently as well. Super interesting stuff. What they've built and the time that this has taken speaks to the quality of work being produced on this chain. So a bit of a walk down memory lane here. So Dan Hughes, founder of Radix, was actually first introduced to Bitcoin around 2012, so a real OG in the industry. And he became very much interested in how do we actually solve the issues around blockchain scalability. So from the years 2013 through to 2019, a lot of research, blood, sweat, and tears to bring us to the position we're at now. So Blocktrees was the first foray into this back in 2013, investigating a sharded blockchain architecture, famously sharding on the roadmap of Ethereum. In 2015, directed acyclic graphs, or DAGs. You may have heard of these during my last cycle. They did become quite popular. And Dan was exploring these in terms of how do we scale these chains. Fast forward to 2016, casts were the hot topic. And this iteration allowed for real world beta testing to begin with community members and the formation of an early community around this. Then came the Tempo era between 2017 to 2019, and this showed a lot of promise. And we had the first early formation of a team around Dan. And in terms of scalability, within a test environment, 1 million TPS were actually registered. In the year 2017, then we have the project being rebranded as Radix, the name we all know today. And if you've been around for a few cycles, you would have heard of Radix. It has had quite a high ranking in coin market cap over the years. And at this point, Piers joined the team here, Piers Ridyard, who is now the current CEO. In August 2020, Cerberus, the consensus algorithm powering Radix, was developed, and this forms a key part of that secret sauce behind Radix and its scalability. Just last year, Babylon mainnet went live, and this brought together the full stack for Radix. The Radix wallet, Scrypto, their custom-built programming language, the Radix Engine v2, and of course, Cerberus as well there. So the common theme you can see here is that a lot of this is custom built from the ground up to provide for a secure and scalable DeFi experience. So you may be asking yourself, why do we need a custom built chain for DeFi? Well, these are just the numbers from October here via Certic, $121 million in exploits for this previous month. Now, not all of these are going to be direct EVM hacks, but what you will notice, a lot of hacks do occur on the EVM. That is the Ethereum Virtual Machine. A lot of people getting their fingers burnt, myself included more recently. And overall, the reputation of DeFi is not great within the EVM environment. So this raises the question, is there an inherent problem with EVM-based DeFi? So Radix wants to solve some of the problems with DeFi, its lack of security, and of course, the lack of scalability as well, as I'm sure some of us have paid outrageous gas fees for doing transactions on Ethereum mainnets. And so they've built an architecture that allows for their goal of mass adoption. Therefore, security and scalability are at the forefront and are of paramount importance. Most recently, Radix boasts a 10 out of 10 score from Hacken. This is for their audit, I believe, of the Radix Engine v2. They currently secure around $20 million in TVL and no security breaches to date. So let's explore this full stack for DeFi. We have the Radix wallet, intuitive, very easy and simple to onboard yourself into this ecosystem, comes both mobile and desktop enabled. Then we have the Radix Engine and their own custom built programming language called Scrypto, more on that in just a minute. And of course the consensus algorithm Cerberus as well. So this is a layer 1 blockchain designed specifically for DeFi applications and mass usage. So let's look at the execution environment of Radix, the Radix Engine versus the Ethereum Virtual Machine and Solidity. So Solidity is famously the EVM language of choice, and on the EVM, many developer errors which result in hacks stem from token creation and usage aspects of smart contracts. On screen here, you can see a Uniswap simple swap transaction. The problem here is it seems far from simple when you look behind the curtain and see what's actually going on. There's many messages, lots of different data moving about, many smart contract instances with balance lists, and each of these smart contracts is storing your public key. This means any small coding error can result in an exploit and funds going missing. I think the saying that comes to mind is complexity is the enemy of security. And we know that the EVM wasn't custom built from DeFi from the outset. So this is why there's such complexity behind the scenes. And I believe a lot of devs pulling their hair out over this. So on Ethereum, you have Solidity, but on Radix, you have Scrypto. Scrypto is a Rust-based programming language built from the ground up specifically for DeFi. The fact it's Rust-based is advantageous. We'll go into that in just a moment. But if you think about it, Cosmos and Solana are both Rust-based, and we don't hear of the same number of frequent issues when it comes to DeFi exploits on those ecosystems. And from this diagram here, you can see if you were to have a swapping protocol built in Scrypto, it would just take 179 lines of code. But for the same type of application written in Solidity, 750 plus. Again, complexity is the enemy of security. So the approach from Radix is what they call a simplified asset-oriented approach. And from the outside looking in, it just makes a lot more common sense. As someone who is a non-technical person in this industry, essentially they integrate tokens at the platform level and not at a smart contract level. So instead of creating multiple smart contracts, if you want to create a token, you simply request it from the platform, you enter your parameters and voila. So say we want to create a blocmates token, we would input the ticker, block, and the number of tokens we wish to have, say 1 billion. And from there, you're done. That would be issued. The underlying tech behind this is called finite state machines. Lots of documentation within the Radix website if you want to check that out. But with TLDR, it enforces a system for how assets should behave. So what you can see here from the diagram is that all assets have to be held in vaults, and vaults are held within accounts. So this ensures that assets are always placed in a vault somewhere. So even as per the token creation, the tokens get created, placed in a bucket, and they must enter into the vault of the creator. So the key benefits here, double entry and re-entrancy attacks under this asset-oriented approach are no longer possible. And this means it reduces headaches and also the complexity when building applications for developers. So they've built out a simplified asset creation tool that already removes potential attack vectors here. And then on top of this, they've allowed for a programming language in Scrypto for the creation of DeFi applications. So as mentioned, Scrypto based on Rust programming language, and this does complement the asset-oriented approach here. So within Radix, they refer to smart contracts as components. And these components are able to hold state and vaults for tokens. So for common processes, so maybe a swap function or producing liquidity pools, blueprints are created for these. This ensures everyone can sing from the same hymn sheet, if you will, and Lindy blueprints get proliferated throughout the ecosystem. So as a developer, you would create a blueprint, maybe it is for the simple swap. You can then call a function to convert that into a component. And what Radix is going to achieve is the ability to then add these components to a catalog for everybody to use. This is something that is in the process of being built out, but this obviously would be very developer friendly. And this really gives that analogy of Lego blocks for DeFi. So these blueprints here can be used and created into components for others to use. And I think this just helps in terms of new developers coming to the market. If you saw, maybe there's a borrow lend protocol that is very popular, it's Lindy being used, houses a lot of TVL. Well, you could simply then introduce that into your own protocol without having to have the same extensive processes of building all these smart contracts from scratch, the worry of, is this going to be hacked? Is this safe, etc.? The millions of dollars it would cost in audits. So I think from the outside looking in, it is more of a common sense approach for DeFi to have things work in this manner. There is also a major benefit for talented devs to come to Radix as well, because you can actually monetize the blueprints. So say you create a blueprint that is commonly used, you could factor in a bit of a royalty every time it is used. Maybe it's just a couple of cents, but if you think about it being used tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times over and over, that's a pretty great incentive to build on this network. So we saw that very complex diagram of the swap function for Uniswap utilizing Solidity, but here on Radix, so the diagram states RadiSwap, what you can see here is that the swap functions are a lot more simpler by design. So with this asset-oriented approach, you can see the buckets being used and assets being passed via these buckets from vaults into other vaults. Thus, the assets, the tokens here are always housed somewhere. So unlike with Uniswap, you don't have to give blanket withdrawal permission, which of course is very hazardous. This direct and more simple approach is more beneficial for developers. You can see at the bottom here, simple function for a swap. Call Alice to withdraw 100 of token A. Token A goes from her vault into a bucket and goes to the vault of the RadiSwap DEX. So RadiSwap DEX then trades 100 of token A and then places token B into a bucket, and then that is called by Alice and deposited into her vault via a bucket, as you can see on this diagram. This just seems a lot more intuitive than the EVM equivalent. So the consensus method behind Radix is called Cerberus. Pretty cool name. And this is essentially the hard graft over 7 years of research and development that we talked about earlier, leading to what they call the holy grail of consensus. So this allows for practically infinite scalability and cross-shard atomic composability. I am definitely not big-brained enough to understand the full workings of this, but I can give you a TLDR on what this means. So essentially they've taken Byzantine fault tolerance consensus and parallelized it across an extensive network of shards. So this chain is actually a pre-sharded chain architecture. So if you think about the Ethereum roadmap, they want to shard into the future. Radix here is already pre-sharded into 18.4 quintillion shards, which is a number I can't even fathom. And as you can see, 2 to the power 256 is the theoretic max capability, which is similar to the number of atoms in the universe. So these are crazy feats, bearing in mind each of these shards can process 2000 TPS on its own. So people were after high throughput chains. Well, here you go with Cerberus. Now the secret sauce is the braiding technique. So a quick TLDR, apologies for the block of text here, but this braiding technique allows Cerberus to execute transactions that involve multiple shards without breaking composability. Why is this important? So you're going to have DeFi apps with interactions that need to take place across various different shards. Now within traditional blockchains, a global timeline is maintained between all transactions across all of the nodes. Then in a sharded chain, typically there are a few timelines per shard, but an overarching global timeline as well that must be adhered to. However, Radix, the differentiator, within a transaction, Radix can specify which shards are actually relevant to said transaction. So knowing this, a braiding mechanism can occur, which is inbuilt into the shards, and this reduces the time lag of signed commitments and only braids relevant shards together. This means maintaining a global timeline is not necessary. This means quicker transactions and multiple transactions being able to take place in parallel. And we've seen via that scalability there, this means the throughput is phenomenal. And if you think about it, Cerberus here is probably the only consensus protocol that truly is built to scale to support the global financial network on a decentralized network. So for scalability, this one gets a big tick. So a quick tokenomics breakdown here. You've probably heard of Radix and the ticker XRD. It has a maximum supply of 24 billion tokens. And from a diagram here, 12 billion were created at Genesis, broken down into dev incentives, foundation, liquidity, Radix community, founder, a stablecoin reserve, network subsidy, and token sale, and then a further 12 billion XRD tokens given as emissions over a 40-year period for a sustainable future for Radix. These tokens will be going to stakers and validators. This is a proof of stake network. So of course, yes, you can stake this token and earn a yield. Highlights here, we have a 10% of total tokens being locked in a stablecoin reserve. We also have just 10% of tokens going to the founders. All of these are fully unlocked at this point, as you can see across the diagram. No major supply overhangs at all for this token. And I think it's noteworthy here that you can see on here liquidity incentives, developer incentives. They are thinking about incentives on a big scale. They've used them in the past, and I expect they will use them in the future here, especially in this bull run, to push for adoption. So this is definitely something to have on your radar because there could well be a Radix season coming up. Why would you want to hold the XRD token? Well, it is the gas token of this network. You may wish to stake it as well for some passive yield. Radix has many uses within their DeFi ecosystem. Maybe you'll want to use it as collateral, or maybe you want to LP it. And as you can see via the flame emojis up there, this is also a deflationary token. So as per the network fees, 50% of network fees are actually burned. This will mean that the burn rate is proportional to the network activity. So if they can stimulate more activity on here, the burn number is going to increase. This token is also very liquid on mainnet. They have a wrapped version called EXRD. If you want to pick this up on a centralized exchange, you've got the likes of KuCoin, Gate, Mexi, Bitfinex, and BitGet. For the DEX bros out there, we have Ociswap, Caviar 9 on the Radix network, and then we have Uniswap on mainnet. So having looked under the hood, what is more forward-facing here? Well, we have the Radix wallet. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is a pretty special setup. The Radix wallet is a mobile-based wallet, so iOS, Android. Give it a download and try it for yourself. It is very smooth in terms of the onboarding experience. You can't really go wrong. Very intuitive, got it up here. And what this allows for is obviously mobile opens up the ecosystem, the applications to a global audience. Not everyone has desktop, but utilizing the Chrome extension, you can also connect via your browser as well. So it's kind of dual usage here, both mobile and desktop, which gets a big thumbs up from me. If you want to learn more about this called RadQuest, this is a gamified experience for onboarding users into the Radix ecosystem. Within Emery's article right up here, Radix, the full stack solution for DeFi, over on the Blockmates website. Check that out because he goes into detail as to what the various rewards are for getting involved and what they could mean. But do give this a download. Check out the wallet for yourself. You'll be able to get this up and running within just a few minutes, and it really does just simplify transactions. The transactions on here are human readable. As you can see from this diagram here, it says like guaranteed. So as an example, you'll be doing a swap, maybe via desktop. It's going to ask you for approval within the app, and you're able to transparently see the full process. So as on screen, $20 in, going to give you 32.7 XRD tokens back, but a minimum guarantee of 31.14, obviously accounting for any slippage. This lets you know what your baseline is for any swap, and it just makes the experience, less daunting than sometimes you may press swap on a DEX interface and you don't always get the number of tokens you were expecting back. This just makes the experience a lot more smoother and simpler. With this, you're also enabled with the latest security features. You can use the biometrics of your iPhone, etc. And this is going to be a great access key into the Radix ecosystem. So let's take our first step into the ecosystem here. And we found ourselves on Ociswap. As the name would suggest, this is a swapping protocol. So this is for doing spot-based transactions. You can see top right, I've already connected my wallets, and just off screen within the Chrome extension, I've got my Radix wallet linked up there as well. So that is what connects me to the desktop application. And then they have this thing called personas, which essentially gives you a custom feel. You kind of feel part of the chain by having your own persona, and you can have multiple personas, multiple wallets within the app. And then you can select which ones you actually connect to the various dApps here. So I've connected my first test wallet here, and this is the front page of Radix as it suggests. And as you can see, it has a basic swapping protocol here. You can swap from, say, XRD into their native token of OCI for Ociswap here. But if you go over to a token of your choosing, so I really like this one here. This is a meme coin called Early, which pretty hilariously has the face of Piers Ridyard, the CEO, as the token logo. So I think this is a good bit of banter from the community here. From this, you can now see you've got all the information, a trading view page. You can see the market cap and depth of liquidity for this various meme coin. And on the right hand side, you can swap between assets into this token. You can swap from a wide variety of different assets. Select the asset, how much you wish to swap. And if you're happy with things, you can click on the swap tokens button. And what this is going to do now is prompt you within your mobile application to complete the swap. So on the mobile, you can see the transaction there. It's going to show you the amount of XRD I'm swapping into early, shows me the guaranteed minimum I'm going to receive. And at the bottom, it says slide to sign, which is going to sign the message to approve the transaction. If I do that, it's going to reflect this on chain and thus on desktop, as you can see on this page. And now you can see success going back in 3, 2, 1, and the swap has been completed for me. You can see from the user interface here and generally from the user experience, it is very intuitive to use this. I like the color schemes, the designs, etc. And it makes me think that this can be sticky. If people come and use this ecosystem, they're going to like what they see, like what they find, and there's enough here to keep people interested. So this is just the first protocol. The second one here for PERPS traders is called surge.trade. So this is a perpetual swap. You would need to deposit funds into your account here because, of course, you could be subject to liquidation. You've got long, you've got short, you've got a leverage slider that you can slide to your heart's content, and you can trade various assets. The current listing here, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, XRD, and SUI, with more to be announced in the not too distant future here. If you don't trade perps but you wish to get an APY from those who are trading, you can check out the liquidity pool here. APY is currently around 15%. And for those of you wondering, what's the kind of easiest way to bridge funds across? So I've connected my Radix wallet with my Persona CryptoTube up there. I've previously connected my MetaMask wallet as well. And what you can do here is a cross-chain swap on Caviar 9. This is one of the leading dexes on here. And this feature in particular, I think, is just so friendly for new users because likelihood is people will have funds on, say, ETH mainnet. And doing this cross-chain swap, you're essentially bridging over and getting the assets you wish. So typically, I would imagine people will want some gas of the network, i.e. the XRD Radix token. And from this, you can swap your ETH into Radix in one click, and you wait about 2 minutes, and you will then have the XRD deposited into your Radix account. As simple and easy as that. The ecosystem over here is developing on a very quick basis at the moment. I think there's a lot of stuff coming online very soon. If you're interested in your NFTs, your meme coin trading, DeFi applications, maybe gaming metaverse, come and check out the list of ecosystem participants over here and get involved. And if you think about it, if you've got such a high throughput chain that is known for its security, all the applications you know and love potentially can come and find a home here on Radix. So what alpha is there in terms of the roadmap ahead and where Radix is heading right now? Well, there's a few pieces in the background that are coming together. So one is a product offering called Anthic, and this is a liquidity protocol. And the idea here is that they're going to be able to, in partnership with big market makers, and I believe they've got 3 signed thus far, they're going to be able to mirror the actual liquidity on major centralized exchanges for some of the top assets. They quote the top 50 here onto the Radix chain. So via a process of wrapping and mirroring in a safe, secure manner, they will be able to offer the exact same trading depth that you could find on a centralized exchange, but on the Radix DeFi ecosystem. This is not yet live, but this would be a major plus point for Radix for getting big market makers involved, for getting institutions involved. And if you want to bring a depth of users, a depth of liquidity is obviously going to be important as well. So you can piece together and see what they're pushing for. They want this to be the go-to DeFi chain. Then we've also seen some institutional adoption of Radix as well. So this is Prime Vault integrating the Radix chain into their stack. So this is a Y Combinator backed platform. This is going to give a lot of kudos and reputational points to Radix, the fact that they've got this big partner who's looking to deploy into their ecosystem. So this isn't just a vanity kind of metric or announcement. There's going to be some deployment of funds into the Radix ecosystem from reading into this. And the quote from Prime Vault CEO Prashant states that the integration of Prime Vault with the Radix ecosystem is a pivotal moment for institutional finance by bringing our advanced digital asset infrastructure to Radix. We're enabling seamless access to the DeFi markets with enterprise-grade security and performance. This will pave the way for institutions to confidently deploy capital in the growing Web3 ecosystem. So again, having this kind of big money focus as well, you can see the pieces are moving together here for Radix. So for me, the key takeaways here are the fact you've got a scalable, composable chain that is going to be very dev friendly, as we saw with the kind of Lego piece analogies. And with its security, I do believe it is well positioned to actually onboard a lot of capital, which maybe has seen the pitfalls of the EVM and all the hacks that have occurred, and maybe looking for a more safe haven of an ecosystem to position in. We saw from some of the architecture, Radix is well positioned for actual adoption on a major scale. It's already boasting numbers that other chains could only dream about. And so I think the next steps here, having seen the ingredients in the background, they just need to maybe incentivize or get numbers through the door, boots on the ground, in order for more people to actually experience Radix for themselves. I think once they're able to do that, you will see a lot of people are very sticky. Having just used this application on my mobile, I thought that was super friendly. The experience of using the dual usage desktop mobile makes a lot of sense, and it just feels intuitive overall to have the mobile in some form utilized for everything I was doing. And it does seem that there are enough applications on here to keep people busy if they do bridge over. And the bridging process was super simple as well. So it feels to me that this just needs a catalyst, a spark to get people in. Maybe that comes in the form of incentives, but this is seriously good tech that needs to be shouted about. And I would suggest it's definitely worth giving this a go. So we hope you enjoyed this one. Subscribe if you're new. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.